Yeah, speaking of interviewing scientists, I saw your interview with Sapolsky. It
My
was great.
favorite scientist
Yeah,
ever. Well, it was
we
so
we
unfortunate that his sound was so bad.
I could understand him.
Yeah,
It was
it
bad. I
was.
mean, that's kind of what you get with Zooms.
Yeah, it was like there's like people in his house like making. It was like they waited till he was recording to start
Oh,
doing all of the pots and pans in the house. And but yeah, my favorite sign. I'm actually, this is how busy I am. I'm supposed to be like getting back to him to interview him about his new book, Determined, and I just have not had a chance to read it yet.
yeah. For anybody watching or listening, check out Robert Sapolsky,
Best there is.
Sapolsky.
Yeah.
He's a
So
neurobiologist. I got neuro
a neuroscientist and
neuroscience.
primatologist
Right. Okay.
who has a exceedingly well-rounded. I mean, basically his whole thing. He's become popular as a science writer, I suppose,
Hmm.
as well, and much of his stuff is about kind of not categorizing things and putting things in buckets, and kind of analyzing the various different aspects of multiple fields of science that go into understanding behavior. So
Yeah.
if a behavior happened, what happened moments before in the brain that caused that behavior? What was the stimulus on the outside that caused that neural behavior? What were the hormones that were fluctuating hours to days before in the brain? Then going back to how was your week, month, year been? What's your financial status, your relationship status? What was your adolescence like? What was your parenting style like? What was your prenatal
Yeah.
environment
Yeah.
like? And then what was your like the ancestral
Ancestry.
past that shaped you? And so that's that's endlessly fascinating to me. Like, take a
Yeah.
single given behavior and try to look through it from all of those lenses and
Yeah.
see what those influences were.
Yeah.
Mind-blowing
Yeah.
stuff.
He's the man. He's got I mean, hours and hours of lectures online via
Human behavioral
Stanford.
biology
Yeah.
course is fantastic.
And
He also did some through Coursera. I think they eventually, no, not Coursera. The teaching company or something. I think they changed their name along the way, but there are multiple classes with Robert Sapolsky. I've taken all of them. They're all so good. I would say
yeah.
they're probably even better than his books, which are also fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I think human behavior is so fascinating.
Oh yeah.
And, at risk of committing a party foul here, the more and more I learn, it seems like the idea of a totally free will, like, person inside the head acting out things as a human being is like just totally a myth, just like total bullshit
Yeah.
that that may have been invented actually by um or at least ensconced by like Christianity,
Hmm.
because you're either a person willfully committing good acts and getting treats from a guy in the sky, or you're you're being punished for your bad ones.
Yeah,
Eh,
it fits really nicely into all these various cognitive biases that we have. The first of which being like egocentrism and thinking that we're at the center of everything. But then there's these kind of fundamental attribution biases which is like a foundation of a lot of othering, and
oh yeah,
that is
yeah,
a
yeah,
byproduct of that egocentrism, which is that, like, when something good happens to me, it's because I earned it. When
right,
something bad happens to me, it's because I had a bit of bum luck and the world's unfair or whatever.
right, yeah,
When something bad happens to someone else, it's because they earned
yeah,
that.
yeah.
They did something wrong. They should have behaved differently. When something good happens to someone else, they just got lucky,
Yeah.
and it should have been you or whatever, and could
And
be you in the future
that
and
makes me
stuff.
think of like karma, and sort of like I think that from my understanding at least is that the West sort of misunderstands karma, where like I think it initially meant just like like one cause and effect essentially.
Hmm.
Like you do one thing and consequently this other thing happened, and
Hmm.
then that chain of events, and that's you're just living in this sort of chain of events.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I find the whole like free will topic fascinating. I think that
Yeah.
I try and talk about it with my fiance, and she hates it at this point because it was definitely my and I talk very, non-scientific. I told her that, or I told you that she's getting her PhD in evolutionary biology and ecology. So she sort of was like, "You need to learn how to say this better." And me being the lazy person that I am, I have not learned how to say it better. But
Yeah, I mean, generally, it's like it's always fell within like the philosophical realm of things.
right, yeah,
So
yeah,
this is the way decades ago,
yeah.
the like real scientific community, chemists, biologists, or whatever, would be like, I don't want to. We don't talk about
We don't want to touch.
consciousness here.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
don't talk about free will. That's within the realm of. That's for philosophers, and these fucking philosophers don't really prove anything or
Yeah,
test
yeah.
anything and don't know what they're just
Right.
but I don't think that's now that's starting to
Break
not
down. Yeah.
break down a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of wonder if we're just living in uh, Buddhists talk about enlightenment as like sort of like seeing past the self.
Hmm.
And if this whole self is just like one big cognitive bias that we're all like subject to until we're
Yeah,
not. Is that it?
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I think that that's an interesting way to. I think that for me, free will is interesting in that we care about it at all. Like the very, I mean, the only reason why I think there could be free will is that it was some evolved thing that's looking for something that we do have some measure of control over some things, and then
Yeah.
and so because free will is actually not important to us in a lot of if you ask someone, do you want to have free will? Yes, I want to have free will. And then you go, okay, well, think about every step that you're making, every breath that you're taking, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like people want others to choose the restaurant. People love surprise parties. People sometimes like being surprised. Part of what comedy works is being surprised
Right, yeah,
and,
yeah.
and, and everything. So there are, like, when you think about it through that lens, there's a lot of times in which people would like to take that free will away from themselves. They just don't see it on pay. And then also, people want free will for themselves and they want control for others. so,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so like, do you? They survey people and go like, would you rather um, be able to feel everything and not be in any control, or to feel everything and be in uh or not feel anything
Yeah.
and be in perfect control, and people will be like, well, I want to feel, so
Yeah, yeah.
I'll take the feelings instead, even if I don't have the
Perfect control.
perfect
Yeah.
control over it. And then they ask, well, what about others? And
And they're
it
like,
tends to be like,
"Eh."
I don't really need to care about their feelings. I
Yeah,
want them
yeah,
to
yeah.
be like in control of themselves,
Right, yeah, yeah.
and know that, because predictability and control are two of the biggest things that any mammal's after, and like any organism at all, really. And so those are the two biggest stressors when they get taken away. So the more unpredictable and the less control that we have, the more we kind of have these illusions of it and try to have these top down superstitions, conspiracies, spiritualities that then like
Ah, yeah.
evolve from this like idea of it's probably a way of calming down our overactive stress response system, because we get socially valued for appearing more confident and everything,
In
as so
in
you gain
control.
status even if
Yeah.
you can't necessarily back it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky thing too because it's not like we don't have agency over some parts of what we're doing here,
Hmm.
But like I didn't choose to be, as far as I know or can remember, that's kind of a woo-woo thing that people like to bandy about, like, oh, you chose to be here. It's like I don't know if I did. Maybe I
Hmm.
did, but like I didn't choose to be born me, in 1985 in Lexington, Kentucky, to my
Hmm.
parents
Right.
in this spot. And I think just starting from there, it's like all right, and then how my life has unfolded from that. You go like even success in art or comedy, like there's a fair bit of luck going on there,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, or failure, even bad luck. You know, you could say it's bad luck. But yeah, I find it a very interesting topic that like it really gores multiple oxes at once when you bring up like, hey, by the way, well, we don't have free will. And
Yeah, I mean, there's also like how empathetic of a person are you? Because if you're more empathetic, you probably believe less in free will, and
yeah,
if you're less empathetic, you probably believe more in free will. So if you're a softie like Sapolsky who cares about everyone, and spends much of his later years going and testifying in court because for in the defense of trying to get people lessened
yeah,
sentences and things, because he understands that most of this, like, there were all of these variables that led to, like, this person had brain damage or whatever
right,
that
right,
led to. And like, from his point, like, he thinks about determinism through that lens, where then if you're like one of these libertarian influencers, that's like, what you need to do is pull up your bootstraps and
yeah,
be
yeah,
a
yeah,
then you believe in free will, because, like, gosh darn it, you overcome everything, and then you have
yeah,
this
yeah,
expectation for everyone else to
right,
as well, or you manifest the world around you too. That's the other, that I guess, yeah, there's the manifestors and the optimizers are kind of doing the same thing, but from two different lenses, which is like, I control the universe.
yeah,
And
yeah,
some people are like, I control the universe with my mind and just thinking positive thoughts about how I want my outcomes to be.
yeah.
And then the other side is like, no, life isn't easy, and you got to blast through these walls, and then there's blends of them.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the placebo effects of those two things, though? Is like
Oh, I love it.
that could be the real thing happening there,
I
right?
mean, life is about finding a placebo that works for you. I
Yeah.
think placebo. I think placebo is a dirtier word than it should be, which is that, like, because if one of these supplement companies is selling, like, I mean, that Blue Lotus that you took, like, like,
Yeah.
there's hardly anyone would be able to, like, take what you took and be like, yeah, this
Right.
isn't anything.
Right.
But like, these companies that say, like, hey, take this and that thing and you'll get to live forever, and usually it's a sugar pill. you know that's that's fraud. That's just
Certainly.
straight up fraud. but
Yeah.
but for but for for any individual to come up with, like, a ritual, or do, like, some sort of little thing that at least, like, makes them think that everything's gonna be okay, and, like,
Yeah.
gives them
Yeah.
a little pep in their step or whatever, makes people treat kinder, like, placebos can be used in nefarious ways, and then they can also be used in, like, really positive ways
Yeah.
too,
You can
just like,
harness. You can sort of harness the
yeah.
effects, I guess.